Hey guys, JK here. I wanted to talk about some of the new upcoming units and just my first impressions of them. Obviously, I haven't really tried these out in person or, firsthand, so these are just like theoretical things and my interpretation. So if I'm wrong about something, as always, feel free to correct me and I'll, love it or pin it or whatever and make sure that people can see it. But yeah, just my first impressions and whether or not I think you should pull on this upcoming banner. So the first unit is going to be called EIZAN. This is our very first blacksmith. It's a very interesting job. I don't really know quite what to make of it yet. Like, the main job has a whole bunch of buffs, like attack buff, defense buff, that you can actually stack over and over. And it's kind of in a 3x3 cross scope. But, so in that way, it's kind of a support class. But then he does have a couple of, he does have an attack as well, like 9 square kind of in front of him. Attack based on fire, and it's extra damage against metal enemies, which is kind of a weird niche. So yeah, he's not really like that versatile as an attacker. He's kind of like a support mostly, but can attack also. So yeah, I don't really quite know what to make of it. And then his basic abilities are more like direct buffs to certain kinds of attack, like slash attack, pierce attack. Those are not stackable. They tend to, I think they last 4 turns, and they're like by 25 at max level. So very interesting job. And yeah, I think there's a little bit of versatility there as far as, whether to play him as a support or an attacker, because his counter, his reactive ability is actually very good, which we'll talk about in a second. But he does have a job 2 samurai, which is good if you want to use single blade, make him, more of a devastating hitter when he actually does hit. And then job 3, holy brawler, if you choose to use that as his main job, that's probably perfectly viable as well. So and he does have a very good leader skill, 50% physical attack to thunder units, which we're kind of seeing more and more as time goes on. So the recommended build here is smithing and basic smithing. So this will kind of be like more of a pure support type of build, because again, he has a whole bunch of buffs that he can give to people, and the main ability, smithing and basic smithing, have like 1 attack each. As I mentioned with the main one, it's like a 9 square in front of him, and then the basic smithing has one that's kind of like a retribution blade, a 3 line, but everything else is basically a support or a buff. So his reactive ability, this is kind of like, I think, the heart of this character. I may be wrong. It's called With Heart and Soul. No pun intended there. When receiving damage, performs fire physical counter with a chance of lowering enemy's physical attack for 3 turns. So this is a guaranteed counter, just like cross counter is. So that's very good, obviously. But the best part about this is that it has a 25% chance, I believe, of lowering the enemy's physical attack by 50%. So that is quite a good reactive ability. If you were to, if you can proc that debuff on the enemy, that's going to make a huge difference. So I think this is definitely the reactive ability to go with, and in fact, it's probably going to dictate how you play. Like, kind of like you would do in the old days with the Holy Brawler, where you would run them into a crowd, use sharpening focus, and just hope to cross counter everybody to death. Maybe it's a little bit like that. So yeah, I'm not quite sure again how to play this character, but that's just kind of my impression of what might be effective, especially against, physical enemies and so forth, and especially wind enemies who are weak to fire. Well, that's a little bit of a toss-up actually, because this is a thunder unit who is weak against wind, but then he has some fire-based attacks which are strong against wind, so it's neutral. Passive 1, clear the mind, raises fire res and light res and max HP. This is actually a nice one. Raises the res by 20, I believe, for each element, and then max HP by 10%. A nice passive there. Passive 2, enhanced counter. Raises physical defense and greatly raises physical attack and magic attack when performing counter. So again, if you're kind of basing the play around, standing there and countering everybody with heart and soul, with heart and soul, then this is probably a decent passive to go with. Otherwise, I'd go with Iron Body just to make him tankier and survive actually standing there and getting hit. So I'm gonna have to do a lot of testing on this character. I don't really see him being like game breaking or anything like that, but he's pretty interesting. So the next one is TAMAMO. I think there's a lot less to talk about here. Nice looking character, but unfortunately the jobs are pretty I don't know, kind of basic and outdated. The way that I would probably play this character is kind of like a Rita, where you do a Shrine Maiden main job, Maybe mage as a sub skill, but that's definitely inferior to Rada because Rada has Sage instead of Mage. The other alternative would be to use Ranger, of course. Maybe a Shrine Maiden main job. Use, I forgot what it's called, but you basically buff your attack and all your other stats, and then you can, do more damage as a Ranger, or buff your dexterity or whatever. So I don't know. I don't think that this is going to be a very good unit right now, especially not for a base 5-star that you need to pull for or anything like that. But she does have a nice unit, a leader skill, and also a nice look if you are into that kind of thing. So definitely not a must-have here. But if you have her and you happen to get a lot of her, then I don't know, perhaps usable in certain situations. So the recommended build is Shamanism. So yeah, that's Shrine Maiden main job here. And then basic spellcasting. Again, I mean, when you have to use Mage, anything, it kind of shows you that the character is not really meta, not really ideal. But I can see it working. Counter Magic as the reactive ability, pretty good, I guess. Magic up +1, not really that great. And then Eagle Eye range +2. That's kind of weird. I don't know. Does that affect magic attacks as well? I know it affects ranged attacks for like Ranger, but I don't know if that actually affects magic spells as well. So please let me know in the comments, but I don't know. I don't see this character being very good. The next one, I think is pronounced Scheherazade, is a Sage, Dancer, and Magic Swordsman. Very interesting combination here. I would say this character is definitely better than TAMAMO, and I think that's kind of obvious even just from having Sage over Mage. And what's interesting is that you can use her as a Sage and then also have like Divine Shelter as a passive. So, like Divine Shelter, Magic up +2, that's a nice combination of passives there. And the Sage job is definitely improved now. Like the cast times aren't so ridiculously long. And there's also new strategies where people have discovered where you can like overclock a Sage that is in the middle of casting. The Sage will get their turn right away. You can even move that character and then cast that same spell again, and bam, it happens immediately. So cast times are not as much of a concern anymore. And again, Sage just got faster cast times overall anyway. So I think this character can definitely be usable, and I don't think we have any like wind-based Sages currently, so she does have a niche role to fill. As compared to like a Nika. Nika is the tankier mage, and she's a battle mage, of course, so it's a different job. But Nika is very, very strong against like physical attackers. But if you're a Sage, then you're gonna have higher magical defense, and with Divine Shelter, of course. So there are little differences there, and I think this character will be usable. But again, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking. Okay, yeah, the setup is almost like I was saying, but basic dancing instead. Which I can kind of see. I mean, if you are, trying to double as like a support or debuff or whatever. I forgot what basic dancing has. Is that the support or is that the debuffs? I don't quite remember. But, like you're not always going to be in range for a spell, nor are you going to have the time to cast it all the time. So kind of gives some utility as well. And then Magic up +2 and Divine Shelter, as I mentioned. So pretty good character there, but none of these are like making me excited and like I have to pull them. So that's just my first impression. And then we have a global original unit named SIEGFRIED. Now this is gonna take some time, and I don't have time in this video to go over all the details, but this does seem like a very good character. So he's light-based wandering swordsman, and yeah, that's a new job. This is a global exclusive, like I said. And yeah, he's able to do a lot of cool attacks. He also has some great jobs, like other jobs, Holy Brawler, good passives. You have the potential to use Sharpening Focus, Magic Swordsman, again, the potential for Divine Shelter and stuff like that. So lots of cool possibilities here. I don't know what, let me see here. All right, so these are the skills. I'm trying to see what passives are on Wandering Swordsman to see like how to build them. Okay, so I don't really see anything that's like gonna buff his attack per se. He has some like defensive stuff like finesse raises evasion and move +1, which is really nice. That's kind of like Fate Yomi and so forth. Void Slash, chance of performing a preemptive strike, just like a Gilgamesh. So kind of like more the modern type of reactive abilities, passive abilities. Divine Shelter. So I don't think he has like really a really strong attack passive per se, but I think you make up for that with using sharpening focus perhaps. So I'll cover this character in more detail in a future video, maybe even tomorrow, but yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of look into this a little bit more. I have to get to work right now, so hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know which unit you're most excited for, if you're gonna pull on this banner or not. I may actually have to use my gems this week to try to get more copies of, oh my gosh, her name is slipping my let me look it up real quick. This blue-haired character, how am I not remembering the name? I do this sometimes where I like completely just brain fart and I can't remember what the character is called. I have her up to level 65, but I do want to get her up to Setsuna. Okay, I do want to get her up to level 70 just so I can at least wear a second piece of gear. So I did some pulls over the weekend, got her up to 65. I didn't have a whole lot of luck. The only way that I even got her up that way was the 25 guarantee shards. So I'm on step 8 of this 9-step banner. Once I get some more gems, I'm gonna go ahead and just finish it out because I want that 50 soul shard selector at the end. Unfortunately, that was really the only way that I could build her up because it was just hard to get shards otherwise, and I wasn't pulling her at all. So yeah, that's my plan. Maybe I'll do, like, of course, the 500 gem summon on the new banner, but I'm not really that interested, to be honest. So let me know what you guys think about the banner. Maybe I'm missing something, and I'm sure there's people who play the JP version who have a lot more experience with like the blacksmith job and so forth. So let me know what your thoughts are, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.